Thank you so much for joining us today. I am really excited for this session as we are talking about a balance that is so critical for higher education institutions to find today, which is how to find this delicate balance between empowering, enabling the ability to innovate, to use and develop best-in-class tools on campus, but as well do that with an eye towards privacy, security, compliance. We know it's not an easy balance to find, and I'm so happy that I'm joined by three true experts in the field to share some of their lessons learned, their best practices, and their pearls of wisdom with all of you. My name is Drew Sidel. I work on the Google for Education team, and I will just skip ahead to the members of our panel, because these are going to be the true experts for us today. I'm just asking questions, and I do want to say a big thank you to all of them. They've put a lot of time and energy into preparing, putting together thoughtful responses, their insights that they want to share with all of you. So a big thank you, and I'll pass things off to Lowell to kick it off with some introductions.
All right, thank you, Drew. Hi, I'm Lowell Williams. I'm the Director of Cybersecurity and Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. Just quick introduction beyond that. I am pretty new to higher ed. Next month will be a year. I spent most of my career within the federal government, about 15 years across Department of Defense and the FBI before going out into finance and then transportation, then stint at Google, a tech startup after that, and now higher ed, George Washington University. Sharon's got the next picture, but Marc's next to me, so
I'm next. Hi, Marc Hoit. I'm at NC State University, my second large long-term job. I am a faculty member in structural engineering in my past, and they still talk to me, which is kind of interesting. By the way, I just wanted you to know you all are giving me PTSD by sitting so far apart. Feels like COVID, and I'm feeling like we're like, Anyway. I'm now the Vice Chancellor for Information Technology. Been at NC State for 17 years, and they taught me how to spell AI, so you told me I'm an expert. We're good.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Kelley. I'm the CISO of New Jersey Institute of Technology. We are the state's only polytechnic. And I have been in higher ed for, at this point now, it's been 17 years. So I did about 15 years early on in my career. I left, I went around a little bit, and then I came back because I missed it. And then when I got back, I went, oh, that's right. Anyway, so I'm back in higher ed. I am enjoying it. It's a challenge, so.
Thank you. And you may be looking at these pictures and these titles and thinking, that is an interesting mix. What a privilege. We have two CISOs and a CIO here to share, and this was actually really intentional. We wanted to find folks that had expertise in security, compliance, and privacy, and identifying the risks, the opportunities for their institutions, but as well, we wanted to make sure we had the CIO here as well to share what is this blend, what is the dynamic, and ideally the collaboration between these two sets of really critical stakeholders on a higher education institution campus to determine what should be the direction, how do we best tackle and approach the opportunities, but as well the challenges posed by AI. So with that being said, let's kick into our first question. And as well, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, if there's something you'd like to hear about from the panel, please do save that, because we are going to have some time for questions from the audience at the end. But we wanted to start with a couple of, we'll call them softballs, although they're not exactly softballs. We did share these questions ahead of time. All right, so the first one, from your perspective, what do you see as the 1 to 2 most significant opportunities, but as well challenges that AI presents for research and for education?
Sure. I'll drop a significant opportunity. So, I don't think this is unique to higher education, but one is the ability to start cutting through some of the administrative burden, right? So some of these tools make great chatbots. For instance, at GW right now, we're testing, if you were to go right now to our procurement website, you would see a bot that is in beta right now that is a RAG, retrieval augmented generated tool that will actually go and read through all the procurement policies and answer your questions about, so if you were a prospective vendor, right, trying to understand what do I need to do to actually get a contract working with GW, you'd be able to query that instead of reading those policies one by one. Also, internally, right, it's really great for anybody who's looking to buy something. So great opportunity there to cut through some, as I said, administrative burden, plenty of challenges. And I think that one of them is has just been kind of endemic in the industry right now, is that it seems everyone wants to start adding in and incorporating generative AI into their tools, sometimes without even telling us as customers, right? So I think it's gotten a little bit better, but we still are running into that from time to the point that we've actually had to incorporate new language into our contracts that vendors are required to notify us before rolling out any such. So yeah, there's a couple.
I'll go. So I see a couple of things. The opportunities that I see present mostly involve, like you said, definitely cutting through red tape. We do have a lot of very, very poor procedures or processes that we're trying to clean up, but AI will definitely help. It'll also help. It's helped me significantly just with my day-to-day and what I'm doing. I never thought I would still be in spreadsheets, but I am, and it is definitely helpful with that. But one of the biggest opportunities I see is for our students. I honestly don't think that we get things like this, like AI, all that often. We continue to improve on technology we already have, but this is definitely different. And it opens up opportunities for students coming out of college, and as long as we're willing to move forward and help them learn it and help them utilize it so that when they get into the workforce, they, it gives them a foot up, I guess. But I think this is the most exciting change that we've seen in a really long time.
So I'm going to break it into two chunks. One of them is what can you do right now? What are the success and the opportunity? But I tend to look towards the long term and what am I really going to be able to do with it and how is it going to change what we do? And I've been lucky enough in my career to see a couple of step changes in how technology changes what we do. And sorry, I'm really old, but the first microcomputers, when the IBM PC came in and we did our first computer labs, people would come over and see our lab and go, wow, this is really cool. What do you do with it? And you kind of say, well, I don't know, we're learning. We're trying to figure this out, and it became pretty ubiquitous. This is one of those. And we're in that, wow, what do you do with it? And there's some cool things you can do with it now. I mean, policies and getting it to read through it. I put all our faculty complain about travel policies. I dumped all the manuals and all the other things in there and said, go ahead and query it. Go ask it what you want to do. How do you do a travel? And the problem is, some of my folks, their documentation's poor. You dump poor documentation into the system and ask it a question, and you get a poor answer. And so you're still stuck with fixing all your documentation and making sure you don't have redundancies. And everybody says, just point it to the web. Have you tried that on your campus and search your web and ask for the travel policies on your campus? How's that go? So some of the problems haven't gone away. The tools are really cool, and they save you the tool time of creating the database and doing the work and parsing it out and doing all that stuff. But the downside is people think it's ready, right? All this hype. Sorry, guys, you're doing it. I've seen your ads. Everybody's doing it, right? All the newspapers are doing it. It's perfect. We can do everything. We're going to solve the world's problem. Just sprinkle some AI on it. And sorry, there's a ton of work to do. We're in that really super hype phase. There's some great stuff, but we got work to do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, agreed. Sounds like some common themes I'm hearing: lessening the administrative burden, giving folks time back to do things that feel more mission critical, more meaningful. Feels like there are major opportunities as well for students. This is, such an exciting time, but you're right, Marc. It feels like there are real risks, and if the data of what's being used to train these models, especially things that are specific to your institutions, if those don't feel valid, then absolutely what's being put out is not going to be valid either. Very insightful. Thank you. Let's get into the next one. And this one I was curious because we have such distinct sets of stakeholders on a university campus. And just within the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of changing perspective on AI, the good and the bad. So I was curious to get thoughts from the group here. We know that there have been some mixed views from students, from faculty, from researchers, administration around AI on campus. How have you seen this evolve in the last 2 years since the launch and the real proliferation of Gen AI?
All right, we're just flipping a coin, see who gets to go next again. Yeah, I know, we just want to spice it up for you so it doesn't look like we're just going down the line all day. So what's interesting is when it first came out, the biggest thing we heard from our faculty in the teaching side was, oh my God, the students are going to cheat. They're already using it. They're already doing these things. It's terrible. It's, you know, how do we stop them from cheating? We need anti-AI tools. We need something that stops them from using it. All the same things that happen with every new tool that comes out that people are worried about that they're going to do. And the answer is, that's kind of dissipated on my campus. They're stopped talking about cheating. They're now going, how can we make them use it? We got one faculty member who took and said, okay, your assignment is to use AI and write your paper, write your next assignment in AI. And he said, but I'm still going to grade it the same way I grade every other one. And they came back and they said, this sucks. I spent twice as much time working on this AI-generated document and cleaning it up and fixing it and getting all the sources and everything done as I did. Now, this was a year and a half ago, so you know it's probably got it all fixed now. At least Gemini do better. So it has changed because of the rapid pace, but we still have a long way to go. We don't really, you heard this morning in the keynote if you were there, what's the effect of teaching and learning? It's not just, hey, it's a cool tool and students can use it. Have you ever seen the research that says if you take notes on a computer, you retain less than if you write it with a pencil and paper? And if you write it on a screen, even though you use a pen, it's still not the same as writing it on paper with a pen and paper. Right? So we already think that AI is going to improve cognitive learning and you're going to get better. That's a stretch. So we're going to have to figure out how to do it right in order to make that happen.
Well, I would like to add to that and say if we have any AI models that can figure out what I'm writing manually on a piece of paper, that'd be great because my handwriting's terrible. I think the biggest thing that we've seen is going from definitely the fear to how are we going to incorporate in everything we do. So with the exception of a few different groups and faculty, we're definitely all in. The researchers are all in, the administration is all in. I'm weirdly in as a CISO. I'm like, just let's do some guardrails, right? That would be nice. So I think the biggest thing that we've seen besides more of an acceptance is definitely a willingness to actually understand what it is and to learn how to use it, because that was kind of a big thing. It's more the adoption of it and the willingness to learn how to use it properly and what to put in and not put in and why that's important. So it was, exciting, brand new, had that brand new car smell. And we've moved on now and trying to figure out how to use all the buttons on the console of the new car that, we've had for a year and a half, so.
Do they still have buttons?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, mine does, but I have an old car, it's fine.
Yeah, and from my perspective, keeping in mind that I haven't even been within higher ed for 2 years, right? So, but still, I'm seeing a lot of mixed views across the board. Students excited about using generative AI, faculty that are apprehensive or who love it. They're not a homogeneous group, right? Researchers, there's been some issues and risk there that's been tied into generation of academic research and papers and data sets that are not real, that have, so there's a concern there. And then administrators, being on the administrative side of things, I look at, and on the security side, right, we have, I'm looking at things from both the kind of governance, procurement, but also I run the Security Operations Center, incident response teams. So, is this lowering the bar for attackers to actually now more easily find their way into our systems? And the answer is yes. But in addition, I decided to jump with both feet into higher ed, and say I put my toe in the water on the faculty side of things as an adjunct. And in my course, I not only allowed but expected my students to incorporate the use of AI in generating phishing emails, right? So for the course, and in doing, not only did they learn some capabilities of these tools and how they can potentially increase, right, the risk, or make it more an organization more susceptible, but they also got to learn about the guardrails around some of these tools. If you go into most LLM's generative AI tools, you're going to find that if you say, generate me some malware or phishing emails, you're going to get a response, well, I'm not going to do that for you. But they were all successful because they went and learned how to convince these tools to drop those guardrails, which that was part of the exercise as well. So a lot of interesting things, and it's just going to keep going.
It feels like if we're on that bell curve of, let's say, fear versus excitement, it feels like we were starting to kind of cross that threshold where what I'm hearing from the group is initially it was very fear, it's starting to cross more into the excitement, the recognition of the opportunity. Would y'all agree?
Yes.
Don't want to be left behind.
It's an
right?
exciting opportunity. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll come back to that one. This one, and this is, I think, really the meat and potatoes of this conversation, hence the title. But I am curious, given the folks we have, the titles, the expertise, when you think about your institution and ultimately what is the kind of culture of experimentation, of innovation that you want to foster on campus, especially around AI, how do you feel like you can do that successfully while also ensuring that you maintain the level of rigor around security, privacy, and compliance that is going to keep your institution, your users, your data safe and secure? How are you finding that balance today and maybe moving forward?
Great, I get to start this one. Perfect. So this one is very tough. I don't want to be the no lady. I try not to be the no lady. However,
Sorry.
I didn't really get a say in when we decided to do the things that we're doing. So I'm literally herding the cats now. I'm walking behind the toddler, dropping things in the mall and picking it up. So, but I'm not unhappy about that. This is the way we have to go. This is what we have to do. This is not it's definitely a binary. This is not you're either going to do it or you're not. You really kind of have to. So it's more of just conversations and communication, and that's the biggest thing with me is not yelling. I try not to yell or send mean emails. Trying to send out my director of governance, risk, and compliance because she's lovely, and having her talk to people. She's less sarcastic than I am in general, and the faculty don't hate her, but they do me. Anyway, so trying.
Come on, do that nice email. You told me you know how to do that.
I do. I use AI to write nice emails. So we're really just. I'm on board. So I'm on board. Sometimes it's difficult for me, but being in security, but I'm on board, and we're just, every time somebody wants to use something, we're going to look at it. We're going to make sure that they understand what they can and cannot do with it, and we're just going to roll with it, and we're going to, fingers crossed.
From my perspective, I've been pretty much fully brought into anything AI within the organization from the start. So I was almost immediately put into a generative AI working group for administrative use. We already had a separate group for faculty that existed, and but one of the main points that I was pushing for within that working group was the use of generative AI as a solution, as a tool, doesn't change the process that we already had in place, right, around third-party risk management. And one of the teams that supports me is reviews each and every software, hardware buy that we bring into the university. So if you go through the procurement process, you will have that review conducted. And we try to identify risks, not be the long pole in the tent, but we kind of are, and make sure that we are not being that group that just says no, but are being a part of the solution. And so when we're looking at introducing any new technologies, Gen AI included, my team is a part of making sure that gets done safely and successfully. So, I think that's really important. Just being a part of that overall solution, not being a barrier.
So you heard the two security people, one on each side of me, telling me we try not to be the no person. Yeah, So what happened on campus? AI came in, everybody wanted to use it. They said, hurry up and let us use it. We said, this is a security risk. You can't put any university data in there. You can't put anything that's in, that you need to keep security levels. We have a hierarchy of our data. In order to allow that, we have to put it through security review. When so much of it came out at once, and it was changing every month, so it was like, oh, now it's version 3.5, now it's version 4. Wait a minute, we didn't review those versions. How do we do that? And it caught us. I mean, we weren't quick enough to help people. And I looked around and I said, look, this is crazy because they're going to use it anyway. And if they don't use it on your computer and they don't use it on campus computer, they're going to go out home and they're going to use it on their home network and they're going to use their home computer and they're going to do the same darn thing. And they're going to do it anyway. So we better find a way to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So we launched some committees like everybody else does because we're a university, and what's a process without a committee? And we figured out that was okay, but that's not solving the problem. So I pressed my CISO and I said, look, you got a month. You better find some applications that we can approve and that will meet our security requirements, because if we don't give people something, we're stuck. And they're going to be doing something that's, we're going to be in trouble. So we did that, and we have a website where we list what's currently been reviewed and what's approved, and the 4 major ones that you all know about, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, the different pro and non-pro versions of those things. And surprisingly, Grammarly, because Grammarly is pushing real hard into AI. Yeah, I know, sorry. But like you said, every other company is adding AI and not telling us, and all of a sudden it's like, do we have a security risk, and are they using it to train it, and they're not. The good news is the ones that we've approved don't use your data to retrain and you're kind of your own garden, just like my email is not read by anybody, maybe. And so away we go. So we're doing all those things, the security things. We're treated, but show of hands, how many of you think AI is something unbelievably different than every other application we've ever dealt with? I see 2 hands, which is comforting, because it's just an application. It's a complex application. It does some really amazing things, but it's a piece of software that has data, and you use data, and you put data out, and you do things with it, and it follows a lot of the same rules behind the scenes as everything else does. So some of that stuff's the same. Now, remember how, and I'm looking around the room, maybe a few of you, the first time Wikipedia came out and they said you can't use it as a resource? Yeah. Right? Okay, because we don't trust people, same thing. You got to use it responsibly, you got to do all those things. You're going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, do you remember when there was a review comparing Wikipedia, and I think it was Britannica, and they said that Wikipedia was more accurate?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, who had the encyclopedias, the encyclopedia
Growing
sales
up,
guy?
oh, yeah.
Come on, everybody, except for Hamill did not. So one of the things I will say that this has also done for us is it's made us go back and redo a lot of our documentation, but also a lot of our policies, right? Which is a good thing, because policies are things that you really never look at. We've got one from like 1986, I think. That's one of our policies. We're like, wow, is that the last time it's been reviewed?
Some things don't change. We're education.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But yeah, so there are a lot of very scary things out there. And when was the last time anybody here actually read the EULA before they checked accept? South Park has a really horribly wonderful episode about the EULA, so I got some chuckles. Some people have definitely seen that one. Why won't it read? So just it's again education. It's teaching your people to at least breeze through that and see what, and free always means they're taking your data. That's it, period.
How many of you are having to change the way you do work in order to keep up with the pace of this change?
Can't keep up.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're not really changing it. We can't keep up. We always have more security reviews than we have time to do. We've brought in a third party to help us do some risk assessments from time to time. So.
Yeah, we stuck me and my team in the middle of the purchasing of any software, and everybody hates it, but I don't care because we have to at least do a cursory review, right? We just have to. So
Have you figured out shortcuts?
have we?
Yeah.
Have they figured it out? They're like, if it's cheap enough, they'll put it on their credit card and try to get reimbursed.
No. Shortcuts to reviews. Sorry, not shortcuts to overcome your review. Shortcuts.
No, they clearly figured out how to get around me.
So
No.
I'll tell you one thing that worked for me in the past. This goes back to my government days, but it's basically what you've already done, right? Of identifying software, hardware that has been approved, making that approved products list, and then making sure that's very obvious so that when somebody is trying to go make a purchase, that they can be pointed to or find that, hey, if you want to buy a server that needs to be deployed into a rack, this HP server is approved. If you want to go get something else, okay, that's going to require a 3-month review process. So,
for software, does something like BitSite, does that give you a comfort level for low-level purchases? Would you use that
No.
instead of a review? Nope. All right.
I,
I'm done.
I'd rather see something that is higher ed specific, like, I know this doesn't exist, but like a repository of all the HECVATs.
Yeah, well, we've been trying for years.
All
All right, Google, there's an opening for you. We need a review process.
I like to upload those to AI models and say, please go through all of this because I'm not going to,
There
and
you
give
go.
me a summary.
Well, it sounds like at a high level what I'm hearing is, although this moment feels in some ways transformational, like we're on the precipice of this paradigm shift as far as the technology, although sometimes it feels a little bit iterative as well, it feels like actually fostering this kind of culture and this blend or balance of innovation while also having a balance of security, privacy, and compliancy. It's doing a lot of what you've done well for years, having up-to-date policies, having processes on campus where when someone wants to use a tool, they're actively engaging with you to do vetting and risk assessments of those tools. So it seems like although the technology feels like a paradigm shift moment, many of the processes that help this to work well and to find that balance are processes that you've been doing for years.
And we might
Am I
even
hearing
get
that
data
correctly?
sharing
Yeah.
across
Well, the
campus.
processes, I think, having gone from, back when I worked in higher ed years ago, it was a very small school. So I knew all the faculty. And NJIT is slightly bigger, and by slightly I mean a lot. And I don't know the faculty, except for the ones I do know. They're not fans. But what I found is that within the different departments, the communication is absolutely horrendous. So everything that we've been doing to try to foster this culture is just being lost. It's I don't know where it's going. So I don't know, depending on where you are, that can be a big issue, especially when you're large. So
Maybe we can talk about that in the challenges and opportunities question in just a little
challenge
bit.
and opportunity. There we go.
All right, and this one, especially from the CISO, but also the CIO perspective, is curious, given this moment that we're in, we recognize that across the board, the threat landscape is evolving rapidly, especially with the increasing adoption of AI. When you think about either at the global level, the national level, or for your institution specifically, what do you see as the new attack vectors, and what are you most concerned about?
So I'm going to go first because then the CIO says something and then the two security people tell him where he's wrong. So it's going to work out perfect. So we create our own security training. We have mandatory security training. We have things. And last year's training had things like watch for bad English, look for the bad salutation, look for all these things. That's all out. Right? I mean, so there are about 3 things you can look for anymore. The URL of the page that you're looking at, does it, is it where it really should be from? They intercept shibboleth pages. and they come from gmail.something or whatever else it is, and we're like, you didn't notice that? So there's that, and then some of the sophisticated intercept it, do it live with another bot, entering the data. Your Duo pops up and says it's secure, and you go, oh yeah, I just logged in, so it's okay, and then they copy that and do, I mean, it's like real-time parallel systems, you know, virtual or digital twins. Well, they're doing that in the threat landscape, so that one's new. But the majority of it is the same thing, the same processes. It's fraud. It's fooling people. It's getting them to think that you're the trusted person, and they're not being discerning, because everything from they're trying to get their homework done, they're stressed, the paper's due, they can't get the print job to work, you name it, whatever else is stressing them out, or they're trying to get ready for the party they're going to, and they got to submit the homework so they can go out and have a good time over the weekend. They are students.
Thirsty Thursday.
So what it's allowed is a less talented hacker to get into a system with very little effort and to get something that is pretty darn good. And that's scary. So now you can tell me
Do you want to start, or you want me to start?
You can both
So
tell me
you're
in
wrong.
chorus.
No, you're not wrong. The things that I think there's still one thing that you can always count on if it's a very simple money grab, or it could be the start of something bigger. But it usually starts with an email, right? We're still at, what, 98% or whatever of attacks start via email. And the emails are getting really, really good. But what they haven't let up on is the emotional triggers. And that makes me happy because at least that's something that we can still focus on. And what we tell people is if it evokes a very significant emotion in you, you need to stop, take a step back and think, because that's always where they seem to get in or get money. We did have recently a student gave up $200 to ICE to not get deported. Obviously, it wasn't ICE. It was a really well done email. I will say it was.
That
It
would
was
have been
very
a
good.
cheap way to not get arrested.
Oh, that one was bad. I felt really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they're still focusing on that. They're still focusing on people who are panicking. So, we did have to send out an email telling everybody that ICE is not going to ask you for $200. But so that's at least something that we can still maintain some type of training on. If it evokes emotion, take a step back, think about it, ask a question.
Yeah, and I really like both what both of you had to say there, because it's really relevant. You know, we see attacks like those on a daily basis, and security awareness training generally is the best defense. But I'll talk about another concern, and this comes from a couple of the places that I worked in the past had a lot of operational technology, right? SCADA systems, industrial control systems, and I think it was about a year and a half ago, there was a researcher at MIT, and he and a team, they got together and using generative AI, were able to develop some scripts that could impact what would normally be proprietary language that is used to communicate with some of the industrial control systems in a power plant that could lead to an explosion, right? So that was the end result of their simulation, right? They didn't actually go out and blow up the power plant. But things like that are concerning. They're a little harder to see as something that's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. But it's if you look at some of the attacks that have happened over time, SCADA systems are a target from time to time. If you look at what happened with Iran and the centrifuges, Stuxnet, that's right. So things like that are concerned. And in higher ed, it's not a zero concern, right? I mean, some institutions, I have a friend who graduated from the program, so I'll bring this one up. Mizzou, they have a nuclear reactor. Imagine somebody with the right access who decided, hey, it'd be really easy for me to cause some havoc. There is some actual risk there.
My alma mater, MIZ. Go nuclear. Okay. This one, I was curious to give you all an opportunity. If you think back, maybe it's with hindsight being 2020, or if you think about what the future holds. If you were, well, you do have the opportunity to speak to other education leaders, maybe just getting started or already on this journey with AI, what advice would you give them?
Hello.
Sure. So I would say don't hesitate and start working towards embracing it, right? Generative AI is not going away. It's going to be, it already is, I think, a fact of life. No matter where you are in business and industry, I mean, again, they're on top secret networks. They're generative AI tools. So it's not, and it's kind of an analog of thinking back, maybe 15 years at most, looking at cloud adoption. That was scary, right? Because I'm going to put my data where? Who's in control of this? So you just have to embrace it, start working through, make partnerships internally, figure out who you can work with that can be an advocate on the faculty side of things, if there's a faculty senate, understand what the needs are, and start identifying tools that essentially IT can review and bless and say, here are several that we think would be, have been approved and would be available to use.
So start early, start often.
Yeah, one of the things I would definitely suggest, or I could suggest a million things, but one of the big ones we just started doing, which is, looking back, you go, why are we just starting it? Just because we've been, again, herding cats. We've been coming behind and picking things up. We have a nice questionnaire now for anybody who wants to buy a tool that has Gen AI tied to it. We have a questionnaire now. If you want to do this, here's the questionnaire, fill it out. We're not going to do the research for you. You're going to tell us what it is. You're going to tell us why you need it. You're not going to say because I want it, or we get a lot of that. They make a request. They go, for class. Okay, well, that's very descriptive. That's your business case. So we're making people make the case, and we're making them fill out a questionnaire so that we have somewhere to start from. So it gives us a head start when it comes to figuring all this out.
So I'm going to give you a different one, something that IT groups are generally not the best at. Find a couple of people in your team. Yeah, that too. Find a couple of people in your team, your best presenters, hone a presentation short, because you got people's attention span is short, and go show them what you can do. And I'm going to give you a little story. We invited Drew and one of his AI architects for Gemini to come give for our IT community day. And live in that show, Drew took one of my papers, dropped it into Notebook LM, and played the podcast version of it. And the whole room broke up. And on top of that, they said, holy cow, it can do what? By just dropping this 40-page PDF in there and tell me all the answers that are in that document? So there's nothing like a true example to show them. So if you take your folks out and go show them 3 or 4 tools and then have a Q&A about it, the proof is showing them. Right? Until they see it, they're not going to believe it, they're not going to get it, they're not going to think through it. So that's what I would do. I would go out and educate the folks and show them the power and help them brainstorm some ways to use it. And they'll be your best friends.
Yeah, I really love that idea. I think there's, especially with tools like Gen AI, conceptualizing the power, I think, is really difficult without seeing it in action. So there's a mantra I have within my group, which is, especially with our Gen AI tools, like seeing is believing. I think once you can show someone and even get their input on what would you like to see, what are the key use cases that matter most to you in your day-to-day, giving them the opportunity to see that, which Jillian from my team just did a great job of a little bit earlier today, I think that can really move the needle to get folks excited and get their input. All right. Well, we have just a few minutes left, and so we wanted to give the opportunity to the audience to ask your questions. And I do want to say a big thank you. Y'all have done such a wonderful job. Round of applause, please, for the panel. They've done a great job here. But before we let them off the hook, are there any questions from the audience? Anything that you would like to ask, either for your institution, something that you've just been wondering as you've been sitting and listening, or anything else?
I'm a former, oh, good, perfect.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
please.
come on up to the microphone. I'm a former professor.
If
I
you
know how
want
to
to come
call
up to the
people
mic,
out.
you can, or if you wanted to shout out, I can try to paraphrase for you. Whatever you prefer.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? So I'm really interested around the teaching practices and what had to change, specifically around assessments when the students are using Gen AI for, their assignments.
So I just heard a couple of things today, and I don't think it's any different. It's more time consuming. But the assessment is question the student to see whether they truly understand what they turned in.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. So if they turn in a paper, give them an oral explanation and say, you got to come in and explain to me what you did, and I can ask you questions. You'll know in a few seconds if that does. Now, that's for papers. It depends on what you're doing. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also want to say that if they're all using the free version of ChatGPT, you'll know, because they'll all be almost identical. I find that with cover letters and resumes that are done with Gen AI. I can immediately tell, because if they're really good, they'll go in and try to make it sound like they would speak. But who puts that time in, especially college students, right? They're busy. They have other things to do. It's Thirsty Thursday. We talked about this earlier. So you'll know.
So I'll tell you what I did. I set my expectations right at the beginning. I said, for this assignment, I will allow the use, but what I want from you is to understand that you might get a C at best if you don't change anything, because I'll know and it's not going to be good quality. But in addition to that, I need citations that are showing that you're using these tools, and I need to know the prompts that you're using. Right, so I expect that out of the students, and in a lot of cases, just like has been said, it is easier probably to just do it and not to have a tool make that first draft. But if it's a 25-page paper, maybe not. So.
That's really insightful. Thank you. I was at an event recently, and I heard a K-12 educator say something that I almost found heartbreaking, but it was she was just reflecting on the last year, and she said, I miss reading bad student papers. I think she was teaching something like fourth grade. She's like, I used to read a book report. There were errors all over the place, but it felt like the authentic student. And, I think with these tools that it has become more difficult. So it's interesting to hear how faculty and staff are starting to tweak. And I love that idea of the other ways where students can demonstrate what they've learned and that they understand that concept.
The teachers all used to say, you'd know if the parent wrote it.
Yeah.
The AI is the same way in a younger grade.
Pretty
right?
much all of my science projects looking back in elementary school. Anyway. Yeah, please.
So I have a question about a constituency that didn't come up in all of these, which I'm going to group together because there are some similarities, at least in the conversations that I've had as a CIO, which are parents and alumni who are constantly bombarded with everything the media has about secure, not secure AI, evil, Do you have any advice on how to approach talking about AI in an educational context, particularly to those external constituents who are quite often polarized one way or the other?
So I'll give you a first attempt at that. It's a constituent group. Figure out what it is that concerns them, have a message, and deliver it by someone who they will trust, somewhat. Right? They don't. It's this classic way that you get information out. All the time I hear people go, "Oh my God, I didn't know that. I was never informed. You never told me. You never let us know." And we're like, well, here's all the news articles we printed. Here's all the newsletters you got sent. Here's the individual emails. Here's the ones that were sent to your supervisor and you. And oh, by the way, which ones didn't you get? So, but that's, people are overwhelmed and they don't. Oh, delete this. I'll get to it later. All right? So somehow there's a trusted person that they would listen to a little bit. Now, you're right. If they're super polarized, that's going to be a hard one. I send them to the chancellor. Let him do. No, I'm kidding. It's standard message delivery. And I treat most everything. How many of you have taken crisis communication lessons? Small number. So crisis communication teaches you a model that basically is 3 bullet points. That's all you get. After you learn crisis communication, you watch any Sunday morning news show, and you'll go, every one of those politicians are using crisis communication models. They get back to their point. They don't answer the question. They get to it. Here's the things you need to know. Away you go.
Does that
True.
mean watching Sunday news, I feel like I'm in crisis? Because I actually feel that way sometimes.
No, not when you're in crisis. When
Okay.
there is a crisis, you're
It's like,
managing.
is it because they're communicating in such a way that I feel like I'm in crisis? Anyway, all right, well, we are coming up on time, but I wanted to just round it out with giving the panel an opportunity. If you have just anything else you want to share, or just any words that you'd like to pass along before we close it out.
Go use it yourself. Go play with it. If you don't play with it and don't know what it is, then how are you going to ever tell them what it's about?
Yeah.
Go try some stuff.
Yeah, I've got a good example. So and I'm going to have to throw Google a bone here. We're using, so there's a difference in the different models, right? And if people don't know what the differences are, they're going to attempt to potentially use a model for one thing that it is terrible at. And we did that with Gemini. And nobody could figure out why it wasn't doing what we wanted it to do. Well, because we should have been using Gemini. We should have been using Notebook. But we weren't. So it's an education. You have to educate people about how to use the specific models, what they're for, and about prompting, because it's all about prompting. Just back when Google first started, I would have people ask me, how did you get that search to come up like that? And I said, well, you got to ask it the right question. So we're back to that again.
It's called parenting. Oh, sorry.
It is.
Yeah, just I'll agree with that. Just get out there, play with them, test them out, build your, deploy your own, right? There are tons and tons of projects out there that have been put together just for that purpose. So you can deploy your own in your own environment, at home on a Raspberry Pi if you want, right? Real simple, real easy, and you can really get that firsthand experience, understand the difference between the models, if that's something that you might find interesting.
Wow. All right. Well, a big thank you. These three institutions, we have been working so closely in doing analysis and determining if our tools are safe and compliant, and then ultimately deploying many of our Gen AI tools. So through those partnerships, we recognize these folks have a lot of insight. So just again, a big thank you. And for any of you, if you have questions about Google's Gen AI tools, our training, our certification opportunities for your students, for your faculty and staff, or anything else you'd like to discuss, please come and say hello. So, thanks very much.
Thank you.